What if you're not being defeated but refined? What if every loss, every moment of silence, every unanswered prayer is not a punishment but a preparation? Chosen ones, listen carefully. There comes a point in every calling when it looks like everything is falling apart. But what if that's the very moment heaven is shaping you into a weapon for the final battle? This message isn't for everyone. It's for those who have cried alone in the dark, questioning why the fire burns so long, why the pain keeps coming. You've been called, set apart, and the pressure you feel? That's not because you're weak, it's because something holy is being forged inside you. The world may say you're losing, but heaven calls it purification. There is a sacred pattern in the silence. God doesn't raise warriors in times of peace. He hides his chosen in caves, in deserts, in valleys. He breaks them, only to rebuild them with heavenly fire. If you've been wondering why doors have closed, why people walked away, why the weight has increased, it's because the anointing over your life requires isolation, not applause. The greatest warriors in Scripture weren't elevated by comfort, they were shaped in chaos. David wasn't crowned in the palace, he was crushed in the wilderness. Esther didn't rise in peace, she was positioned through divine risk. You are not being overlooked, you're being hidden, not for denial, but for divine timing. The battle isn't tomorrow, it's already begun in the spiritual realm. And those being purified now are the ones who will carry the light when darkness hits hardest. But this isn't the moment to give up. It's the moment to go deeper, pray louder, stand stronger. The warfare over your life is proof that your destiny terrifies hell. And every setback, every failure, every closed door is evidence that God is still writing your story. If this resonates with you, drop a comment. Let others know they're not alone in this season. We're building an army here, a generation of the refined, not the perfect. And just wait, because what's coming next will shake everything. If you're hearing this right now, it's not by accident. You were meant to, because even the act of pressing play is part of something divine. And if this word stirred something deep in your spirit, I need you to do one thing. Drop your name in the comments below and write, "Pray for me." Don't hold it in. Don't stay silent. This is not a channel, it's a battleground for souls. And we're lifting each other up through the fire. Every name in those comments becomes part of an intercessory wave. You are not walking through this alone. I'm reading them. I'm praying. And others who are watching, those who've been where you are, they're praying too. Because chosen ones pray for chosen ones. There's power in agreement. The word says, where two or more are gathered in his name, he is there also. And through these comments, we are gathering across states, time zones, and cities, from New York to Texas, from California to Tennessee, across every silent room and broken heart. We are uniting in spiritual warfare. So if you feel something rising in your soul, don't scroll. Engage. Like this video, not because it's content, but because it carries a calling. Subscribe not just to follow, but to walk alongside a movement. Every like, every share, every subscription is another signal to the algorithm that this message matters, that it needs to go further, because someone else is on the verge of giving up and needs to hear it too. You are not forgotten. You are not weak. You are not late. You are chosen. And chosen ones are not called to comfort, they are called to war. And the next battle, it's closer than you think, but what's coming will reveal who's been truly refined. The pressure you feel right now isn't random, it's precise. Heaven knows exactly where to press, exactly what to break, and exactly how long to keep you in the fire. Not to destroy you, but to refine you. You're not being punished, you're being purified. And purification, by its very nature, feels like pain. But pain in the hands of God has a purpose. It strips away everything you thought you needed, so that what truly matters can remain. There's a difference between being broken by life and being broken by God. One leaves you bitter, the other leaves you holy. And what you're feeling now, the tearing, the loss, the isolation, is not meant to kill you. It's meant to reveal you. There are things inside of you that only the fire can draw out. Gifts, strength, authority, anointing. You've been carrying things for years that comfort could never awaken, but suffering does. This is where real warriors are born, not on platforms, not in crowds, but in secret places where it's just you, the silence, and a God who refuses to let you settle. Because the truth is, heaven never prepares public vessels in public. It prepares them in private, through seasons of crushing, of emptying, of being stripped down to the raw foundation of your faith. That's where the refining happens. And if you're in that season right now, it means you're not being disqualified. You're being qualified. Don't mistake the pruning for rejection, the silence for absence, the loss for failure. Sometimes God will allow what you leaned on to fall apart so you'll finally lean into Him. Sometimes He'll let every plan collapse so you can receive the one He actually authored. And sometimes He'll close every door, not to punish you, but to isolate you, so that you'll hear His voice again, clearly, without distraction, without noise. What you're experiencing is not a setback. It's a setup for the next season, for the next battle, for the mission He's been preparing you for in the dark, because only refined vessels can carry glory, only broken vessels can pour without leaking. Only those who've been through the fire can stand in it without burning. And you, yes, you, are being made ready for something that eyes haven't seen, ears haven't heard, and minds haven't imagined. But in order to walk in that calling, God needs to burn away everything that doesn't belong. The pride, the fear, the compromise, the desire to be understood by people who were never meant to get you. He's not concerned with how comfortable you are in this season. He's concerned with how prepared you are for the next one. And that's why it feels like everything is being shaken, because it is. You asked God to use you. Now He's making you usable. You asked for purpose. Now He's forming your posture. You asked for destiny. Now He's redefining your discipline. This is what the process looks like. It's not glamorous, it's not easy, it's not quick, but it is worth it. Because what's waiting on the other side of this refining is not just survival, it's spiritual authority. If anything in this word has struck a chord deep in your spirit, I want you to do something bold. Go to the comments and type these words: I'm not losing, I'm being refined. Write it as a declaration, not just for you, but for someone else scrolling through those comments who feels like giving up. Your words might be the confirmation they were praying for. If this message hit home, like the video, not just because it helps the channel, but because it tells the algorithm that this kind of truth matters, that this isn't just entertainment, it's equipping. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Not to follow a creator, but to align with a calling. Because what comes next is going to require everything God is building in you right now. And this is just the beginning. No true warrior ever enters the final battle untested, unshaken, or unchanged. Before a soldier of the Spirit is trusted with authority, they must be trusted with suffering. That is the weight of the calling, and that is the reality of the purification process. It's not glamorous, it's not instant, it's not for the faint-hearted, it's for the chosen. And chosen ones are not just given a mission, they are stripped, broken, and reshaped until they no longer resemble who they were, but reflect who they were always meant to become. You see, the kingdom of heaven doesn't operate on the world's standards. The world celebrates the confident, the strong, the self-made. But heaven selects the contrite, the surrendered, the broken, because broken vessels can be filled and cracked vessels can be poured out. There's a reason you've been through what you've been through. There's a reason your heart has been crushed. There's a reason the silence has lasted so long. God is not trying to destroy you. He's making you usable. He is not punishing you. He's purging you. Purging pride, purging fear, purging idols you didn't even know were there. And the fire you feel, that heat, that pressure, that intensity, that's not your imagination. That's the divine process working in real time. because no warrior can stand in the battle carrying what the last season left behind, the shame, the insecurity, the addiction, the fear of rejection. All of it must burn away, not because God doesn't love you, but because he loves you too much to leave you the same. There's a purpose in the breaking, there's a purpose in the waiting, and there's a purpose in the seasons where nothing seems to make sense. God isn't in a hurry to get you to the platform. He's preparing your heart so that when you get there, the weight of the calling won't crush you, because unpurified power is dangerous. A gift without character becomes a weapon, and God is too wise to let you operate in public with an unhealed soul. So he takes you into the wilderness, he isolates you, he surrounds you with silence, he removes the applause, the distractions, the comforts. He puts you in rooms where no one claps, where no one sees, where no one understands. And it's in those hidden places where your heart breaks open that God begins his real work, the work of turning pain into oil, trauma into testimony, wounds into weapons. Some of the greatest anointings are born from the deepest agony. Some of the loudest voices in the Spirit were once the quietest in the natural, because God doesn't need a spotlight to do surgery. He needs surrender. And sometimes the only way to reach surrender is through seasons that bring you to your knees. Not out of defeat, but out of desperation, because desperation removes pretense. It exposes what we've been hiding. And it forces us to ask the hard questions. Who am I when everything else is gone? Who is God to me when I can't feel him? That's where refinement begins, not when things are going well, but when the fire reveals what's real. The purification process doesn't start with glory. It starts with ashes, ashes of expectations, ashes of old identities, ashes of the person you thought you needed to be. And in that pile of brokenness, God breathes, not to revive your plans, but to resurrect your purpose. You weren't called to be comfortable. You were called to be clean. And cleanliness in the kingdom isn't about performance, it's about posture. God is looking for hearts that are fully his, not hearts that appear holy but resist healing. That's why he's letting you feel the weight right now, because he knows there's more in you than what you've settled for, and he's not going to stop pressing until what's impure breaks off. It's not punishment, it's precision. He's cutting out what can't go with you, removing the bitterness, the unforgiveness, the toxic ties to people and patterns that keep pulling you back into cycles of compromise. And though it hurts, it's healing. Though it feels like a loss, it's actually a holy release. He's setting you apart for something that eyes haven't seen, ears haven't heard, and minds can't comprehend. And when he's done, you won't just be free, you'll be fire, refined, purified, ready, but don't rush the process. Don't try to bypass the pain, don't numb it, don't silence it, let it do its work. Because the pain has purpose, the fire has intention, and the purification has destiny written all over it. You're not going through this because God forgot you. You're going through this because he's claiming you, and the ones he claims he cleanses, not to destroy but to deploy, not to harm but to heal, not to keep you hidden forever, but to reveal you in perfect time. This season isn't about visibility, it's about viability. Are you prepared to carry what he's pouring? Are you clean enough to contain it without it being corrupted? Are you broken enough to walk in full surrender? Because the weight of what's next demands it. You're not waiting to be used. You're being prepared so that when the moment comes, you won't be disqualified by what's still hiding in the shadows. You'll be ready, seen by heaven, marked by fire. No, not by popularity, but by purity. Let me know when you're ready for the next section. We're only getting deeper. Some things don't fall apart because you failed. They fall apart because you outgrew them. What you're losing right now isn't evidence of punishment, it's evidence of promotion. The pain, the stripping, the separation, it all feels so violent when it happens. But what if it's really a rescue in disguise? What if what God is removing from your life is exactly what's been blocking the blessing? What if what left you wasn't rejected by accident, but removed by design. You see, heaven operates by subtraction just as often as by addition. The kingdom doesn't just build, it refines. And before God adds anything new to your life, He first eliminates what can't handle the weight of where He's taking you. That's not cruelty, that's mercy. Because there are people, places, habits, and attachments that look stable, but in the presence of destiny, they become liabilities. They feel familiar, but they can't go where you're going. It's not that you didn't love them. It's not that those seasons weren't real, but they were temporary. They were never meant to last forever. Some friendships were for your survival, not your calling. Some opportunities were meant to teach, not to remain. Some doors opened to expose what was in you, not to become your permanent place. And God, in His wisdom, removes them. Not all at once, sometimes slowly, sometimes painfully, but always perfectly. You weren't abandoned, you were protected, you weren't overlooked, you were being rerouted, because if certain people had stayed, you would have been too distracted to hear His voice. If the money had remained, you might have trusted it instead of Him. If that relationship hadn't crumbled, you might have missed the silence that drove you into the secret place. God will allow certain comforts to collapse when they start to compete with His voice. Sometimes the greatest clarity doesn't come when things are added, but when they're taken away. It's in the losing that we start to see. In the absence, the truth gets louder. In the loss, the counterfeit is exposed. And what felt like betrayal might have been God's greatest act of love, because He didn't let what would break you later stay any longer than it had to. Everything God removes, He removes with eternal perspective. You might be crying over something that heaven is celebrating. You might be clinging to something God is trying to peel from your hands. And I get it. It hurts. The soul doesn't detach easily. But pain in the hands of God is not wasted. He never subtracts without purpose. Every loss you've experienced is a spiritual transaction. Something left, but something else. Something holy is coming. And if you're in that in-between, where the old is gone but the new hasn't arrived, I want to tell you, you are not stuck. You are being reset. This is the space where character is formed, where obedience is tested, where dependency on God becomes real. You don't need to go back to what left. You don't need to fight for what fell off. If it left you during the refining, it wasn't built to carry the glory coming next. There are blessings wrapped in every goodbye. There is favor hiding behind every closed door. And some of the greatest acceleration in your spiritual journey happens right after the worst heartbreak. Because heartbreak humbles you, it cracks your control, it strips you of illusions, and it forces you to decide, will you trust Him even when He takes away? You are being prepared to carry something weightier. And not everything, and not everyone, can survive in that atmosphere. The higher you go, the fewer people fit. The more anointing you walk in, the more intentional your alignment must be. And God will not allow people with corrupted motives to stay attached to your elevation. He will prune you, not because you're doing something wrong, but because He's about to do something right. If you're losing what you thought you needed, it might be because it was never yours to keep. Maybe you were only meant to carry it for a season. Maybe it was never your assignment, just part of your training. That job, that relationship, that status, that comfort. What if it was a lesson, not a destination? The process doesn't always come with explanations. Sometimes you don't understand until you've walked through the fire. Sometimes you only see clearly when the dust settles. But one thing is always true. God's subtractions are always aligned with His vision for your future. If you feel like you're in that season now, where things are falling away, and you're tempted to think you failed, hear me clearly. You're not failing. You're being freed. Not everything that feels good is good for you. Not everything you want is what God wants. And maturity in the kingdom is learning to surrender what you love when God asks you to. Let it go. Lay it down. Trust the pruning, because what God is removing today might be what would have destroyed you tomorrow. And the things that break you now are only breaking off what's been holding you back. If this resonated deep in your soul, I want you to write it in the comments. I saw clearly only after it left, or simply type, I saw after. Let that declaration mark the moment. Let others scrolling through know they're not alone. Your testimony may be the encouragement someone else needs to hold on a little longer. If you haven't already, subscribe now so you don't miss the next part of this journey. Like the video, if it confirmed something you've been feeling, this is more than content. This is community, and we're walking through the fire together. Let me know when you're ready for the next segment. We're going deeper still. This was never about comfort. It was never about applause. It was never about your convenience, your control, or even your timing. The call on your life was never rooted in how easy things would feel, but in how much of God's presence you could carry into places where His voice has been forgotten. The mission of the chosen one is not to feel good. It's to walk through the fire and still carry the flame, because there are places, dark places, where only someone who's been broken, burned, and rebuilt can go and bring light. And the moment you said yes to God, even silently, even with trembling faith, something shifted in the unseen. Heaven marked you, hell noticed you, and the process began. Not the process of self-fulfillment, but of self-emptying. Because chosen vessels are not selected for their strength, they're chosen for their capacity to surrender. This is not about you. It's about what He's forming through you. It's about the impact you're called to make in lives you may never even meet. It's about the spiritual legacy that outlives your comfort zone. You were never chosen to blend in. You were never chosen to be accepted by the crowd. You were called to interrupt patterns, to challenge atmospheres, to shift spiritual climates. That's why you feel different. That's why you've never been able to settle. It's not that you're broken, it's that you're designed to break chains. It's not that you're behind, it's that your pace has been calibrated by divine timing, not earthly expectations. What you're carrying inside of you isn't small, it's not ordinary, and it's not for everyone to understand, but heaven understands it. That's why the battle has intensified. That's why your obedience has been tested in silence. That's why you've had to endure things that others never will. Because God isn't just working on you. He's preparing to release something through you that carries weight, that carries authority, that carries fire. And for that to happen, you must be emptied fully of every ambition that seeks glory for self, of every identity that was shaped by pain and not by purpose, of every voice that isn't His. The refining process isn't just about healing your wounds. It's about erasing the false labels you've accepted so that you can step into the name heaven already calls you by. There are souls waiting on the other side of your obedience, people in bondage whose freedom is connected to your yes. Not because you're the answer, but because you carry the one who is. And God never calls someone to carry His presence without also stripping them of what could contaminate it. The oil doesn't flow from the untouched. It flows from the crushed. It flows from the vessels who've been pressed beyond their limits and still chose to believe. And you, yes you, have been chosen for more than you understand. That's why the cost has been so high. That's why the warfare has been so relentless. Because your life is not just about your healing, it's about the healing that will come through you. Your process is prophetic. It speaks even when you're silent. It ministers even when you don't feel qualified. Because this isn't about personality or charisma. It's about spiritual assignment. And the weight of your assignment has nothing to do with your stage and everything to do with your obedience. You may feel like nobody sees what you're going through, but heaven sees it. God sees the prayers behind closed doors. He sees the nights you cried yourself to sleep and still chose to believe. He sees the moments you wanted to walk away but stayed. That's not weakness, that's worship. That's not survival, that's sanctification. You are being positioned as a living altar, a carrier of something holy, something weighty, something that burns with the presence of God. But that kind of fire cannot dwell in an unprepared vessel. And so he takes you through the hidden place, the furnace, the surrender, because he knows what's coming and he knows who you are becoming. You're not being punished. You're being entrusted with a weight that requires silence to steward, entrusted with an assignment that will cost you your comfort, entrusted with a mantle that others rejected because they weren't willing to pay the price. But you are still here, still holding on, still praying, still hungry. And that hunger is the key. That fire is the signal. That willingness is the open door. This is not about having it all together. It's about staying on the altar. It's about saying yes when no one sees. It's about carrying light into places where light has been absent for too long. It's about walking into rooms where hope has died and becoming the evidence that resurrection is real. Because the light you carry didn't come cheap. It was born in the crushing. It was ignited in the silence. And it shines not because of you, but because of what was birthed through you. If you've ever felt the tension between your pain and your purpose, this word is for you. If you've ever wondered why the battle won't stop, it's because what you carry is not just for survival, it's for transformation. And that transformation starts now, not in perfection, not in performance, but in permission. You have to allow the fire to do its work. You have to allow the process to stretch you, because the greater the weight, the deeper the surrender required. And if that speaks to you, if something in your spirit is burning right now, I want you to go to the comments and write these words. It's not about me. It's about what flows through me. Type that sentence and let it be your agreement with heaven. Let it be your declaration in the face of doubt, because what's coming next is not just a release, it's a revealing. Let me know when you're ready to move into the next section. We're only getting more dangerous to the darkness from here. When the fire intensifies, it's not a sign you're failing, it's confirmation that you're close. The heat always rises before the breakthrough. The spiritual pressure always increases when activation is near. And if you felt like the temperature of your life has been turned all the way up, like every breath has been a battle, like even your rest feels like warfare, then hear this clearly. You're not being destroyed. You're being forged. This is what most people don't understand about the process. They think spiritual warfare means something's wrong, but for the chosen, it often means everything is going right. The forge is the final stage before God releases a weapon. It's where the shape is set, where the edge is sharpened, where the impurities are burned out, not with gentleness, but with intensity, because what you're being prepared to carry will not allow for weakness, hesitation, or compromise. The heat is proof that the purpose is heavy. God is refining you for something greater than the life you imagined. He's preparing you to carry revelation, to stand in atmospheres where the demonic has ruled unchallenged, to walk into rooms and shift them without speaking, to carry a presence so pure that it makes the darkness tremble. And to do that, He must make sure you don't flinch in the fire, that you don't panic in the silence, that you know His voice even when everything around you screams doubt. This season is not a test of your strength, it's a test of your surrender. Can you stay in the furnace when it gets hot enough to melt your plans, your pride, your timelines? Can you stay still when you're not in control, when you don't have answers, when the silence is louder than the noise ever was? Because the ones who emerge from the forge are not the loudest. They are the most yielded. The silence you felt lately, the stillness that almost feels like abandonment, is not a sign that God has left. It's a sign that He's closer than ever. But He's not speaking to excite you. He's working to equip you. His hand is on the temperature, and He knows exactly how much heat is needed to finish what He started in you. And if you've noticed the warfare has intensified lately, don't be afraid. Be alert. Because the enemy always senses when a warrior is about to rise. He knows when activation is near. He hears the tremble of the Spirit before you do, and his strategy is simple: exhaust you before you get there. If he can't defeat your calling, he'll try to drain your strength. He'll make you believe that what you're walking through is a sign to quit, when it's actually a sign to stand. Every whisper of fear, every wave of fatigue, every lie telling you it's not worth it, that's the resistance that rises before promotion. And if it's rising now, it's because the moment you've been prepared for is close. Too close to back down, too close to give up, too close to shrink when you were born to rise. But this next level won't look like the last one. The weight will be heavier. The warfare will be fiercer, but the authority will be undeniable. And that's why the furnace is necessary, because the glory that's coming requires character. It requires resilience. It requires the kind of surrender that only comes from being refined under pressure. Not when things are easy, but when everything inside you is screaming for escape and you stay anyway. You were never meant to be common. That's why your process has been uncommon. That's why people around you don't understand what you're going through. That's why what breaks others only bends you. That's why God isolated you, not to punish, but to perfect. He's been watching your response in the heat. He's been waiting to see if you would choose his process over your preference. And every time you stayed, every time you worshipped through weeping, every time you didn't give in to the voices of retreat, you were being shaped into someone unshakable. And now the forge is at full flame. The heat is undeniable. The weight of the calling is becoming clearer. The distractions are falling away. The urgency in your spirit is rising. You don't know exactly what's next, but you can feel it. Like something ancient has been awakened inside of you. Like heaven is leaning in, waiting for your next move, and all of it, every moment, every test, every tear, it's all part of the final shaping. Don't let this fire scare you. Let it refine you. Let it confirm that you're in the center of God's hands. Let it remind you that he finishes what he starts. And if you're still here, still breathing, still holding on, then you haven't seen the full release yet. You're almost ready. The activation is closer than your doubt wants you to believe. If you feel the heat, if the pressure's been building, if the silence has become familiar, if your spirit has been whispering, something's coming, then this was for you. And if you know in your soul that you're being forged right now, I want you to go to the comments and write the words, I am being forged. That one sentence is a declaration that hell can't ignore. It's a signal to others walking through the same fire that they're not alone. This is the moment where you choose to believe that the forge wasn't your ending. It's your birth. Let me know when you're ready to continue. We're still climbing. You can feel it in your bones, in your breath, in the way the atmosphere has shifted. The silence has started to crack. The pressure is giving way to a strange stillness, not of defeat, but of transition. The signs are everywhere, more vivid than before. Not loud, but undeniable. Something in the spirit realm is moving. Something final is being sealed. The fire that once burned to consume now burns to anoint. And everything inside you knows the time has come. You've walked through the wilderness. You've endured the crushing. You've lost people, places, and pieces of yourself that you once thought were permanent. You've cried tears in secret, wrestled through the night, and still showed up when no one was watching. And now, the heaviness in your chest isn't just pressure, it's prophecy. You are nearing the end of the refining. The embers of the fire are not fading out. They are about to ignite something in you that hell has been trying to delay. There is no going back to who you were. That version of you has been dismantled. The purification was never about returning. It was about emerging. And now you are rising, not with the applause of men, but with the validation of heaven. The weight of the last season is proof that you were never meant to live small. That calling on your life has always been war-sized, not comfort-sized. And the evidence is in what you've survived. The veil is lifting. What once was hidden is being revealed. Not all at once, but with clarity that only comes when you've earned it in the fire. What you couldn't see before, about yourself, about your mission, about the spiritual battlefield around you, is becoming clear. You're starting to recognize the patterns, the lies, the spiritual warfare that once blindsided you. You're starting to discern purpose in what used to feel like chaos. And that means one thing: the activation is near. The so-called loser of yesterday, the one who felt disqualified, discarded, overlooked, is being equipped not just to lead but to war, not to perform but to protect. You were never called to impress. You were called to intercede, to lead with scars that prove you've bled for this, that you've walked through what others ran from, that you stayed faithful when it would have been easier to disappear. There's a shift coming, and it will not be announced by thunder or signs in the sky. It will happen in hearts, in hidden rooms, in moments that seem ordinary on the surface, but in the spirit are earth-shaking. And if you've been wondering why things feel both heavier and lighter at the same time, it's because the mantle is falling. The oil is being released. The ones who were forgotten are being remembered by God, and what's coming upon them is holy fire. You may not feel ready, but that's exactly why you are. God doesn't call the ones who feel qualified. He qualifies those who didn't quit. And if you're still here, still pressing, still praying, still hungry, then you've already passed the test most won't even take. You didn't just survive the fire, you learned to walk in it. You didn't just cry in the crushing, you chose worship, and heaven remembers. The next thing you'll walk into won't look like what you imagined. It will look like obedience, like conversations you didn't plan, like doors you couldn't have opened, like people drawn to the light you now carry. And you'll know, not because it will be easy, but because you will sense the weight of it, the kind of spiritual weight that makes you tremble before you even speak, because what's been placed on you wasn't born in crowds, it was forged in silence. The world may not know your name, but darkness knows your steps, and every demonic assignment that was sent to stop you has already failed, not because you never fell, but because you never stayed down. The call didn't lift when you doubted. The purpose didn't cancel when you stumbled. God was never looking for perfection. He was looking for endurance. And now you're walking out of the fire not as a survivor, but as a weapon. This is what the pressure was for. This is what the silence protected. This is why the nights were long and the voices were few. It wasn't delay. It was design. And now it's becoming undeniable. The evidence is everywhere. You see it in the way people respond to you now, in the way your presence disturbs darkness without you even speaking, in the way you pray, not with formula but with fire, in the way you walk, not with arrogance but with authority. You were chosen for this moment, not because of your resume, not because of your confidence, but because your surrender made you safe to carry what others would drop. God can trust you now, with influence, with strategy, with territory in the spirit that has been locked for generations. And the key isn't what you know, it's who you've become, not in the spotlight but in the furnace, not in the applause, but in the crushing. If you've felt this shift in your spirit, if the last few days have felt strangely weighted with silence, with anticipation, with holy discomfort, I want you to comment these words: the fire is ending, and I'm still here. Let that sentence rise above the noise of social media. Let it be your declaration that you didn't just walk through the fire, you waited in it until it did its work. You are not behind, you are not late, you are right on time, for the release, for the mission, for the next move. Let me know when you're ready for the final section. What's next will seal the fire with purpose. The breaking wasn't the end, it was the beginning. What you've survived has prepared you for what only a warrior can face. The fire has ended, but the war has just begun. You're not just emerging, you're standing tall as one who has been remade. You were never eliminated, you were elevated, and now you carry something priceless, the evidence of transformation. The scars that once spoke, you were broken, now speak, you are unbreakable. The pressure point of your life became your turning point, and now everything spiritual in your destiny is aligning. Look back, and you'll see the pattern. Each loss wasn't the universe erasing you, it was heaven rewriting you. Every closed door was not a rejection, but a divine reroute. Every torn relationship wasn't a sign you failed. It was proof you were letting go of what couldn't go. The friendships, the finances, the comfort zones that disappeared, they all marked one thing. God is carving out the vessel that will carry the next move. You've been stripped of weight, cleaned of distraction, emptied of compromise. Now you're being filled with revelation, authority, and a kingdom assignment. The purity within you is not for you. It's meant to flow through you. This is why you don't walk into rooms the same way anymore. It's why your voice carries gravity. It's why peace follows your steps. You aren't just surviving, you're carrying presence. You're not just walking, you're leading an emergence. And understand this, leaders are forged in solitude, not in celebration. The war doesn't begin on stage, it begins in secret battles, and that's where you've been training. The nights when you prayed until tears ran silent. The days when you stood in your room and worship rose from a broken place. The moments when you chose obedience over comfort, righteousness over relief. Those moments became your training ground. That's where legacy is born. You see it now. The chaos wasn't random. The spiritual warfare wasn't coincidental. You were under attack precisely because you were becoming the one who could push back darkness. Every demonic strategy you survived strengthened your spiritual armor. Every crushing paved the way for clarity, for confidence, for purpose. And now that clarity is giving you vision, now that confidence is giving you voice, now that purpose is giving you power. But just because the purification is ending doesn't mean the process is done. The war is beginning, not against flesh, but against principalities that were stirred up when you rose. Your call isn't for you to sit, it's for you to stand. To stand in light amidst shadows, to stand in faith amidst uncertainty, to stand in purpose amidst threats. And when a warrior is standing, the enemy notices. That's why spiritual attacks often come just before release. It's not coincidence. It's the enemy's final strategy to stop your launch. But you won't be silenced. You won't retreat. You've been broken, yes, but you've also been built. Your story is no longer about what was lost. It's about what's being built. It's no longer about pain. It's about purpose. And the ministry of presence that releases from you will shake atmospheres. The key isn't simply to preach, it's to walk out the process, to own your testimony, to be the proof that purity rises from fire, to bear the mark that pressing doesn't break, it betters. Now, if you've watched this entire journey, you know the next step isn't found in a comfort zone. It's found on the field. And right now, we're standing on the front lines of destiny. The enemy knows the hour. Heaven knows the timing. And history is waiting for your move. You've been prepared for this. Everything in your spirit that felt hollow is about to resonate with destiny. In the next episode, we're going deeper. We're answering questions about spiritual activation and prophetic warfare. We'll uncover what it means when the chosen one hears voices at night and why that might be the sound of the prophetic clock ticking. That's the next layer. That's where your spiritual eyes open even wider. That's where the assignment feels bigger because it is bigger, and you were never meant to operate in this alone. So, before we go there, I need you to engage with this moment. If this has stirred something in you, I want you to declare it. Go to the comments and write, "The chosen one is ready," or simply type, "I am chosen." Let your spirit agree with heaven. Let the algorithm hear us, and let the others feel the momentum of a movement. Because this isn't just a video, it's a declaration. It's a gathering of souls who refuse to be defined by pain. It's a battlefield of faith where the casualties are lies and the victories are kingdom breakthroughs. And if you're here, if you're still watching, if your spirit is stirred, then this was for you. We're not just closing a chapter, we're opening a gate. And the sound behind that gate, it's not defeat, it's the drumbeat of an army rising. If something in this message stirred your spirit, if you felt the voice of God speaking directly to your soul through these words, then this isn't just another video. This was your moment, and I want to invite you to take the next step. Subscribe now. Not just to follow content, but to walk in alignment with the purpose that's calling you higher. And if you've stayed until the end, I know this wasn't by accident. So go to the comments and write, "I'm marked by fire." Let that be your declaration that you didn't just watch, you received, that you were chosen to finish this, and you're ready for what comes next. If this resonated with you, leave a like. It tells the algorithm this is the kind of message that needs to reach others still fighting in silence. And don't stop here. Watch the next video that's on your screen right now. We're just getting started. Heaven is still speaking. And if you're still listening, you're part of something greater.